So thank you very much for coming. It's good to see all of you. Now, today's topic is about the self. What is the self? And what is the not self? So first of all, for those of you who are not familiar with the teachings that are here regularly, the background of these teachings is Buddhist meditation, and one of the core principles that the Buddha has been talking about is the experience of not self, liberation from being an entity or an owner in this universe. So first of all, in order to see this clearly, we need to train the mind to become stable. If the mind is not stable, clearly seeing something is very, very difficult. So that's the reason why we train our mind to become stable. We sit down and we meditate. We're cultivating single-minded focus on something. Getting absorbed in just one mental facet. For example, the breath. It could be a visualization if it is not too complex. It could be just the natural state of the mind. There's many, many different things that you can focus on, that you can quiet your mind with. In the beginning stages of this process, many traditions, for example, they use mantras, words, prayer. Others, they use simple sensations of the body, or very, very popular is the breath. Find a lot of meditations on the breath. Some people manipulate the breath, control it. Other people, they just observe the breath, just looking at it. There's many, many ways. And these techniques, they are designed so that your mind becomes very simple. The more simple your mind becomes, the less it shakes, the less it oscillates. The mind of an untrained person is constantly oscillating from thing to thing. You might have seen that within yourself. Maybe in the meditation that we just did, you might have seen that the mind is quite like a monkey. It just jumps from branch to branch, from tree to tree, from topic to topic. Really, really restless. Mind is a really restless thing. And the reason why the mind is such a restless entity is that it is unsatisfied. If someone is satisfied, they relax, they can relax. But as long as you're not satisfied, you're constantly seeking. That's what the mind really does. The mind is a seeker. It constantly looks for something. And namely, pleasure. It looks for happiness. It looks for happy experiences. This is the occupation of your mind. Looking for happy things. You're trying to get rid of unhappy stuff. Negative experiences. The mind doesn't want those. And so it thinks that it can achieve happiness by creating it. So it tries to somehow create a stable, lasting happiness. And the mind is very funny in doing that. It looks for that happiness in external conditions, for example. It looks for that happiness in relationships. It looks for that happiness in money, in possessions, in control. Controlling other people, controlling your spouse, controlling your children, controlling life in general. That it tries to kind of create a stable set of circumstances in which it then hopes itself to kind of just relax in there. I'm creating that little bubble, and then I go into the bubble, and then life will be happy ever after. Everything will be great. All I need to do is just create that bubble and then enter it, and then everything is good. The mind is, as I mentioned last week, is a very cartoonish way of thinking. Very simplistic, almost like it's displayed in our movies. There is the hero, and then the hero is faced with a problem, and then overcomes the problem, then he is challenged, then He needs to find his true values, and then he emerges in the end as the final kind of the happy ends. Everything is good. And all the movies are kind of based on this story. There's a problem, then there's a solution, then there's a challenge, and then the final solution. And so the mind sees itself in that same kind of way. Your mind is almost like a hero, the main actor in the story of your life. Is ego, is that sense of self, the me, that unquestionable one. So I'm sitting in the room right now. I'm eating food. I'm Tobi. I'm thinking that I should be. Maybe I did. That unquestionable. That sense of self, right? Nobody ever questions that. Is that even real? If I ask you, who are you? Then you probably give me your name. You give me like a bunch of letters added on together. T-O-B-I, for example. If you ask me, who are you? I say, T-O-B-I, I'm Tobi. But is that really what I am? Just 4 letters. Is that what I am? Just a name? Is that what you are? Just a little name? Just a word? And then most people don't go any deeper after that, after having figured out, oh, maybe I'm not the name, like maybe they keep philosophizing for a little while and they stay in the fun zone. Because once your ego is really threatened, that's not funny anymore. It feels very much like dying. The ego doesn't want to die. The last thing it wants. It wants to keep staying alive. It wants to nourish itself continuously and uses experiences to nourish itself. Mainly, it is using thought to nourish itself. That's its main nutrition. That's why really going into a state of non-thinking is a great threat for your sense of self. Then all these kind of weird emotions that you thought you would never encounter suddenly come up. Hate, anger, deep-seated feelings of guilt, regret, grief, tears. Sometimes even very physical stuff like the body shaking and all kinds of experiences. Things that you thought like, well, I'm an adult, I'm not like a child anymore. But really, the mind hasn't grown. The body has grown. The mind has just received a lot of add-ons, but it is essentially, the mind hasn't grown. It's still like a child. It's grabbing around, wanting this, not wanting that, throwing tantrums when it doesn't get what it wants. Just like a child. It's like that. And we can see all of this. And as long as spirituality is kind of on the superficial level, it's still nice and fun. It's like, hey, let's discuss not self. It's like we're in that safe zone, right? You're not really threatened. You're not really threatened to enter the unknown. That's why there's a lot of seekers on this world, a lot of spiritual seekers, but hardly any finders. Most people don't find, because finding is it's a big threat for the ego. We might even read books about the ego. We might have really nice ideas about the ego, overcoming the ego. We've got to overcome our ego, right? It seems noble, right? There is a Muay Thai training center that they have this slogan, right? No egos, only dedication. This is feeling noble to us. It feels good, and it is. That's a nice pointer. But it just barely scratches the surface. It doesn't really go deep to who we are. So in order to really understand yourself, to go all the way, to go deep, the mind needs to become quiet first. Now that might sound all really dreadful. Oh my God, if I'm going to find out that I don't really exist as I think I do, then all these kind of things will come bubbling up. I don't really want that. That's why we need to stabilize the mind first. And why stabilize the mind? Because it gives you an unbelievable happiness. When the mind is quiet, that is some of the greatest blissful experiences you can ever imagine. In fact, we cannot imagine it if we haven't experienced it. What's the happiest experience you could ever imagine? I promise you it has to do something with a material experience. Whatever comes to your mind right now, it has to do something with a nice view, a nice sound, a nice feeling in the body. Right? Think of the most happy moments. It is always somehow connected to our five senses, isn't it? We don't know the happiness that lies beyond the five senses. That's why we practice meditation. To get to know something that surpasses the experience of the sense world. A much more deep, much more profound, much more reliable sense of happiness and stability inside of yourself. Right now, your happiness can be easily taken. You just need to say the wrong thing and boop, you're upset. That's how much dependent you are. You're not really free. If I say really bad words all of a sudden, it will shake you. Right? If I start sitting here and offend you all of a sudden, speaking really badly about you, you might even maybe stand up and leave. That's because this happiness that we have right now is very dependent. It needs the right circumstances. It needs an aircon, it needs closed windows, it needs quiet, it needs everything needs to be the right way. So I can relax. But if that status quo is challenged, like you want to do your meditation and suddenly a noisy Chinese tour group walks in, starts taking a picture of you and being really loud and really obnoxious all around you, what do? You still relaxed or not? You can still meditate or not? Or you think, oh no, it's too noisy, I can't meditate. I can't relax. I cannot let go of stress. Well, then you're just happy because circumstances are nice, right? And as long as circumstances are nice, we're happy, and that's okay. That's actually quite fortunate that we have good circumstances. Many people don't. So we do have good circumstances. We are free enough to actually sit here together and talk about meditation and philosophize and practice together. That's pretty good. That's a luxury. We have time. So you don't want to be constantly under attack, right? But the occasional attack reveals something inside of you. It reveals ego. It reveals the sufferer, doesn't it? If someone's in your face, if someone says something you don't like, if someone does something you don't like, if the world is the way the world is, but not as you expect it to be, the sufferer shows itself, right? That's ego. And ego nourishes itself by the experiences it seemingly or apparently has. I make this experience, I make that experience. This is who I am. What you are thinking about yourself right now, who are you, if you would have to define yourself, then what would your definition be? Maybe some people say I'm a spiritual being, temporarily living in a body, something like that. But then as soon as the body hurts, you're really upset, right? You forget the spiritual being all of a sudden, you're all body, really quick. If someone says you're ugly, all of a sudden you become all body, you're fully identified with body. I had that one time, actually. I had that very experience. I was in the monastery, and there we had a little corner where there were cookies, and in the afternoon the students would go there and meet there and just have some cookies and a cup of coffee or something. And I was standing there, and there was a monk, a very good friend of mine, like a Spanish monk. And he just stood there with his cookie and his coffee and just looked at me for a long time. He just looked at me and ate his cookie and drank coffee. And then he asked me that question. He said, "Tobi, why are you so ugly?" And I was like totally shocked out of my boots. I was like, what? What is it? Why is he asking me that, How dare he ask me that, So the sufferer was immediately just popping out, right? Here I was suffering this moment. You see, the thing is, I wouldn't have to have suffered that. This is not necessary to suffer that. I could have just relaxed instead too, right? But no, I had to suffer that. Because I didn't know how not to. I didn't know how to be at ease, right? So he just triggered that. He said, "Tobi, why is you ugly?" So I put on my spiritual mask, my super cool face, like as if it wouldn't touch me. And I was like, well, probably I made some bad karma in my past life, and who knows, maybe then I was born that ugly, and now you perceive me in that ugly way. And I was just kind of trying to rectify it in some way. And he just looks at me with his cookie, just his face like a stone, just unmoving. And then he says, "Tobi, why are you talking so much?" And it was the second blow. And I didn't have a way out now. If I explained any more, he would just turn around and go. And then he gave me the third blow by saying, "Don't worry, one day you will understand." And then he turned around and walked away. First blow was direct offense. The second one was kind of like belittling me. He would just point out where my insecurities were directly. I didn't like the way I looked. So he pointed that out first. The second one, he pointed out that I'm trying to rectify the situation, and that talking much is something that reveals my anger, actually. I wouldn't have to justify anything if I wasn't experiencing any problem there. But all that talking, it was just justification, justification, justification. Why do I have to justify? Ajahn Chai said this very funny example. If someone calls you a dog, look around. Do you have a tail? If you don't have a tail, what's the problem? Right? It's just most egos, they don't know that they're not a dog. And if you call them a dog, they explode. Because they think they are dogs. People don't get upset if you're not hitting something in them that they think to be true. So every time you get upset, every time someone upsets you in some way, it's because they hit home. They hit you right where it hurts. They point out your wound. That's all they do. That's why we bark. That's why we get angry. That's why we get mad. Because we hurt. If there is no wound, people can point as much as they want. You don't hurt. There's no pain. No need for justification. So, use every circumstance in life as a pointer. Everything in life, it points out either someone that wants to hold on to something or someone that wants to get rid of something. That's ego. That personality that's busy trying to get somewhere, well, that's busy trying to get out of somewhere. That one, that's ego. That's another word for ego, just call it the sufferer. The sufferer, the one that suffers life. Not life. It's the one that feels like he has a life. That's ego. I have a life. Hi, my name's Tobi. I'm from Germany. I have a life. I'm doing quite well. I'm doing my life. As if life was something that I could own. As if life was something that I could kind of drive or something like that. First of all, I have no clue what life really is. I just use the word because people around me are using it, so kind of a religious faith in culture and society and what I've learned, right? How's your life going? Oh, I'm doing well, thanks. How about you? Well, it's okay. Could be better, but I'm just making it. These ideas, they are funny. They're funny because you are life. But ego doesn't feel that way. Ego doesn't feel that I am life. It feels more like I have a life. And I must control it so that it makes me happy. And that's the reason why there's so much suffering in this world. Because people don't know themselves. So as long as you don't know yourself, you're looking everywhere for yourself. You try to look in your job for yourself. You do your job in the hope that it completes you, in the hope that you will end up being more you if you do it properly. That's the agenda of self, isn't it? It looks to be more me. I want to be more me. How can I be more me? Maybe I need to add another person into my life, just attach to them. It doesn't work also. I still have problems, I still suffer. Maybe I should go and have a pizza. And you eat and it's still suffering. It's just never enough. Never enough. That's ego. That's that false sense of self. Another way to put it, another way to point it out is if you add anything after the two letters I am, that's ego. You add anything after I am. There you have the construction that we call self. I am like this, I'm like that, I'm too much that, too little that. Then you need thought to sustain that, to keep this self-image alive. I hope, I fear, past and future, it's all nutrition for ego. It's all nutrition for the one that feels incomplete. It needs a lot of stuff because it hasn't found itself. Because it looks only in this way. It looks only outwardly. It looks at appearances. It looks at the universe. Doesn't it feel like the world's all around you? It's like here I am and I'm surrounded by this big world, a big universe, wow. And then we look out. We don't feel as if we are part of it. We don't feel as if we are it. Right? That's not the feeling at all. You don't feel like you are the universe, right? Let me give you an example to make that a bit more digestible. If you're in a dream, then there is stuff around you, right? There's distance, there's space. You can go up the mountain, for example, and then if you're up on the mountain, you can see the valley. And you have this far view, it's really beautiful. And I fly around a little bit, fly through the valley. There's a sense of you, right, that's interacting with the world. Is that correct? You have that in a dream, right? Like just last night, I dreamt that I was in a high-rise building. So there was the building all around me, and I'm in the building, I'm in that room. And the room seems very separate from me. And I feel very separate from the room. I feel like I'm in the room, right? But what's the truth in the dream? The truth is that the room and the one in the room are one and the same substance. Are they not? It's all mind. Your body is in bed. There is no room. There is no high-rise building. There is no mountain. It's all in your mind, is it not? So it's all of the same flavor, the same substance. And in a similar fashion, this entire universe appears to you, doesn't it? If you're becoming unconscious right now, everything stops to appear. Even time. You can be unconscious in a coma for 9 years, and you wake up, it's like a minute. No time there. Because no consciousness. No moving mind. So this entire universe, it requires a consciousness in which it can appear. If there is no consciousness, there is no appearance, there is no perception, there is nothing that you see that appears to you. Like there is no movie if there is no screen. In the same way, we call it waking up if you're looking through that. And right now we are constantly lost in the dream of life. We don't know that there is just only this moment, right now, right here, eternally. We think there is a lot of things that still I need to do. We're creating constantly future and past in our heads. Constantly. In such a skillful way that has us fooled all the time. Thought. It creates worlds after worlds. And we don't realize it because we are lost in the thought. We're lost in our own head movie that we call life. So once you wake up, you realize very clearly the way things actually are. And that's what we encourage with meditation. That's what we develop with meditation. It's a deeper knowing of yourself. A deeper knowing of whatever appears to you. Understanding it in such a way that you stop suffering naturally. The Master Ramana Maharshi in India is an Indian master. He actually was asked one time, how do you measure spiritual progress? I want to make it as simple as possible for you guys because that is a topic that you can't wrap your thoughts around. It's impossible. You can't wrap your head around this. You have to experience it. So make it really simple. How do you experience it? That guy asked the master, he said, how do you measure spiritual progress? How do you know whether you're getting better at your meditation or not? And he said very clearly, you measure spiritual progress by the degree of absence of thought. Now you have a really good checking ground for yourself. You can put yourself to the test. Where am I in my meditation practice? Well, how much do you think every day? And how impulsively do you think every day? Can you just sit in the car for 30 minutes, going from here to there without having a single word in your head? Is that possible? Can you? Can you be silent? Because only if you're silent in your head can you see yourself. We can't see ourselves. We can't understand the world because there's just too much noise in our heads constantly. Right? So it's very simple. The spiritual practice that we do here is all about preparing your mind so it can see very clearly beyond thought. So it has a chance to recognize itself. In Tibetan Buddhism we call that the mind seeing its own face. So right now this is not possible, of course. You won't be able to do that. Don't even try. It's pointless at trying it. But what you can do is drop thinking right now. Forget 24/7. That's time, isn't it? So the only question is, what do you do now? What can you do now? Right now? How do you drop thought? How do you do it? Well, you feel your body, for example. Can you feel your body right now? Really feel it. Feel it deeply. You notice how the feelings continuously move together with your heartbeat, with your breath. How the life is tingling inside of your body. Can you feel that? Really pay attention to your body. The more you pay attention to your body, the more you forget to think about your problems. You're just here, just feeling. It's very undramatic. There's no problem there. Just feeling, just hearing, just sounds. No problem though, just life. But as soon as you start thinking, problems start. Judgments start. And then you have those problems inside. Then we start expressing them to other people. And it gets worse and worse. That's why this world doesn't change, because people don't drop their problem making. They don't drop the addiction to pain. We don't drop it. That's the problem. Unless that would stop, unless you would have everyone in this world stopping their addiction to problems, namely the incessant thought machine in your head, then everything would be fine. There's no need for a war. Why? What for? There's no need for conflict, for troublemaking. What for? Why waste my time and just getting into a fight with someone? What's the point? You'd be physically much more healthier. It's holding on to inner problems, to the mind-made problems. It is taxing on your body. We pay for the problems that we hold on to emotionally, we pay with health. And for the beginning, maybe it's enough to feel that way. You know, you don't have to be constantly free from thought. Just now. Can you be free from thought now? See, it works. There's not so much thinking right now. Maybe not so many words in your head right now. Just like an open, waiting attitude. Just receptivity. And if you can stay in that long enough, it'll have an impact on you in your life. It will change the way you approach life. Other people, yourself. It will make life much, much easier. Much nicer. And you have a fair chance of actually being happy. You're not thinking so much. Like you have a real chance of feeling really good. Don't you feel average most of the time? With a few peak points during your day, during the week? Most of the time kind of average. Walking down the street, eating food, going to sleep, waking up in the morning, taking a shower. Kind of averagey, isn't it? Not much going on. You're not taking a shower in an ecstatic bout of bliss is overcoming you all the time, like you're constantly blissed out, right? It's not that. Most of the time we're quite average. Not much going on. And then there are these moments in the day. Boop, sometimes you feel really unhappy all of a sudden. Or boop, sometimes you feel really good. And that averagey fog, we call it like a fog. It's on our minds. We're not really able to feel clear and happy and feeling good because we're constantly in this thought fog. There's a constant narration in the background, isn't it? Num 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 num. It goes all the time. Washing your hands, num 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 num. Thinking about the next thing to do. Sitting here in the meditation room thinking about lunch. When does he ever finish? I want to have some lunch. I'm hungry. Torturing yourself in that way. So if you can recognize that, you can actually learn to let go and relax, be at ease, no matter what. That's the quality of a good meditator, by the way. You're able to relax no matter what. Some people, they say, I can only meditate when my door is closed, when I don't have problems in my life, when everyone is nice and kind to me. Forget it. It will not happen. But what can happen is you be at peace, even though the door is open, even though people are not nice and kind to you, you can still be happy and released, totally at ease. It's the ability to let go, not to hold on to your problems in your head. There's a story that illustrates that. I sometimes talk about it. It's these two monks, right? They go in the morning, they go out on alms round, and they have this 2-hour walk to the village and then 2 hours back. Two Japanese monks. And so they go to the village, they have to cross this big river, and then on the way back they have to cross the river again, and the water is quite strong, the stream is very strong this day. And one of the monks sees a young woman standing on the riverside, and she doesn't dare to cross. So one of the monks just walks over to this young woman, picks her up and puts her down on the other riverside. And monks are not allowed to touch women. It's in their vows, they promise not to touch women ever. That's a thing, right? So the senior monk sees the younger monk going over there, picking her up, bringing her over to the other riverside, and he's like, "Whoa, what is he doing?" And then they both walk back to the monastery. 1.5 hours walking, and finally arrive at the gate of the monastery. And the senior monk, he can't hold it in anymore. He's like, "What did you do at the river? You picked her up, you carried her over. You know you're not supposed to touch women. You can't do this. You broke your vow. Why did you carry her?" And the younger monk, he's shocked. He's like, "What? You're still carrying her?" That's the end of the story. You're still carrying her? The young monk, he just picked her up and put her down. Done. Not 1 ounce of attachment, nothing. Not one thought. Just step, 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 put down, step, 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 step. Here, present with every step. He put the woman down long ago. But the old man, the old monk, he just couldn't believe it. So he was thinking this whole 1.5 hours. He was thinking about what happened, thinking himself into a rage, creating a lot of bad health on this 1.5 hours. Why not let it go? So you have 2 levels of experience here. The senior monk, not so experienced, even though a senior. The younger monk, well trained. Even though younger. It's about not thinking. Not fighting with your thoughts, but abandoning them. Let them be. Don't follow them. Don't fight with them. Leave them. What's all the interest in your thoughts? It's just a voice in your head, conditioned by culture, society, media, all the yesterdays. So if you want to free yourself from this endless repetition of yesterday, you need to free yourself from thought. The main nutrition of ego, the main nutrition of self. So I'll talk a little bit more about this on Thursday. It's a quite profound topic. For today, I think that is more than enough.